Hi, my name's Christian Anderson. I am a photographer, artist, whatever I want to call myself, I'm not sure. Right, I started photography in year 10 actually, when I was I don't know how you can take year 10, 14, 15. And I continued doing that, and I learned old school. So a massive part of my practice is to do with process. I'm in love with lots of different processes. I'm one of those nerds that falls in love with doing lots of different things in lots of different ways. So digital photography, as you guys are using it now, was nowhere near what it was when I started. We literally had like less than 1 megapixel cameras that were like this big. So I learned old school in the darkroom. So I learned to load film, I learned to shoot, learned the rules of composition, learned how to print in the darkroom, and started from there really. I carried on through to A-level. I was originally, when I picked my A-levels, I was going to go down the science path, but then I decided to go down the arts path and media path to study photography there. And it was there that I kind of learned my craft, and I started, well, I didn't appreciate university at the time for what it was, but it did make me who I am now, insofar as my critical thinking skills, my lateral thinking skills, and my ability again to visually communicate. And it was at that point I started getting obviously more serious about God and spending more time in His presence and spending a lot more time at church. And we used to go on youth retreats and things like that. And I used to see visions. There was like one distinct vision that we had in prayer, and God downloaded into my spirit, you could say, this image of the Holy Spirit as a flaming bird, a flaming dove, and He was flapping His wings, and then there was fire just falling upon the 70-odd youth that were in the room, and it was brilliant. And then I started to think about, oh, maybe this could be something I could explore, themes and ideas and concepts around God and around my faith and about what I believe, to be able, and expressing that and communicating that through photography. The major thing that I'm really interested in is, I guess, the fallibility of man. The fact that we're all deeply flawed human beings that need God. The only real difference between Christians and non-Christians is that we recognize our need for God. Whereas your non-Christian doesn't necessarily recognize that there's anything wrong with him. But I think deep down we all know that we're all fatally flawed and these human beings that are just broken on the inside. So that's I guess, the underlying message of the themes that I like to explore. How can I visually represent what it is to be free in Christ? And I took a kind of documentary approach to it by interviewing people and hearing what they had to say, and their responses were incredible. I started developing this research technique of interviewing people and asking people questions. And I don't know what it is about my face, I don't know what it is about my demeanor and who I am, but people just used to just give me all this kind of information about them and just tell me things that they wouldn't necessarily normally tell anybody else. And I'm hearing all these things and I'm recording it, and people were sharing their testimonies, people were just kind of glorifying God in their own specific way, and I was able to document that through video and through portraits and through the recorded audio, and those all came together in short-term, long-term based projects where the discussion about God was very evident. We weren't shying away or hiding it away. It was very normal, it was normalized, so to speak, and it then provided an opportunity for there to be a dialogue about God, which in a secular society, in particular arts culture, in mainstream secular arts culture, isn't necessarily there. So one particular lecturer gave me quite a challenging time about this project, and I would say arts education, anybody who's been to art school, is quite a character challenging experience, where in tutorials people are talking to you about your work and you're having to support your ideas and back up what you believe. And I'm trying to do that about my faith, as well as how I'm trying to communicate that visually. And in the end, I didn't do as well as I hoped I would do for that project. However, it provided an amazing opportunity for that, however many weeks we were doing that project, for me to open up the dialogue about God to people who would never normally hear about it. And that then, for me, then became part of the artwork itself. The dialogue about faith, the dialogue about God, the dialogue about the various different principles that I'm trying to communicate I was able to speak about that a lot easier. And I remember it was during that time, people were telling me I couldn't do it, I shouldn't do it. Then received a prophecy at church, and I think it was a Wednesday evening actually. And I remember what I was wearing, because the guy, the preacher, he called me out and he says, you've got a plaid shirt on. And he said to me, all those dreams you've had about being able to speak about God and share his principles and the love of God through artwork, you can do it. And he said to me, I'm going to get my Bible, Exodus 31:6, and he says, I have appointed Oholiab, son of Ahisamach, of the tribe of Dan, to be his assistant. Moreover, I have given special skill to all the naturally talented craftsmen, so they can make all things I've instructed you to make. And this was a reference to naturally talented craftsmen, and God giving them divine ability to be able to create everything that he wanted them to create in terms of the Ark of the Covenant and all, and the tabernacle and all the various different bits and bobs that then went into that. And he said, that's what God is saying about you. I'm going to give you divine given skill and ability within your field, within your area and around that, to be able to talk about my love, to talk about my grace, to talk about mercy, to talk about freedom, to talk about his kindness, and to be able to share that to people. So I've been trying to, as best as I can, through the ups and the downs of my faith, do that. I guess my faith is just about my own humanity and about recognizing my need for God, recognizing the faults and the failures, recognizing the highs, recognizing the lows, and not resting in that place, recognizing that His grace is new every morning. Where would we be without His grace, honestly? Where would I be without His grace? I know I need God, even though I don't always want God in the way that I should want God, even though I'm not always faithful, even though that I don't love Him in the way that I feel like I should love Him, but not beating myself up about it, just trying to maintain that connection as best as I can, and to be the best version of me that I can be, to be the version of the finished article as God sees me, because that's how He sees us, isn't it? He sees us as the finished article, not sitting still, but trying to do the best that I can, submitting myself to the process, and then allowing those the daily humdrum challenges of life to feed into my artwork, whether it's me at being a dad, whether it's me just living my life and trying to be the best husband I can be, whether it's dealing with the challenges and the temptations and the trials and all those things that make us human, and all those things that Christ, when He came down to us, recognized those challenges in His humanity. So I guess for me, it is that brokenness, the fallibility, the things that are wrong with us, that then it inspires me, I guess. I'm able to talk about things, I'm able to be more relatable to other people, so they tell me more about them, which provides an opportunity for me to then talk about Christ. And I kind of hide behind my artwork in doing that. I'm not always as bold or as expressive as I would like to be in terms of speaking about my faith. I think the place is necessary and it's fundamental and it's needed, but I don't think necessarily the platform is given to it in the traditional context or the ways that people are able to express that. There are so many creative people out there that are able to do so many different things, whether it be, traditionally speaking, I guess people express themselves through the auditory, so worship, singing, songwriting, and what have you. However, this visual society, people can't concentrate for more than 15 seconds on one thing. It's a hard time to be alive, but you need to catching people's attention, be able to communicate theories, ideas, themes, and all these things through the visual. It's fundamental. We're missing a trick, I think. If we're not exploiting seems like a bad word, but if we're missing a trick, if we're not exploiting all the means at our disposal to speak about the love of God, to share our faith, to talk about our challenges, and it's that transparency for me. It's about, I don't know, it's sad, I think. I haven't always found the place for it, and I don't even know. It's so inspiring when you hear other people that do what you do, and are interested in what you do, because they were all kind of like hiding under these rocks, working in their own little bubbles. And I think we need to come together. I came across an organization called CIVA, Christians in Visual Art. I think it's an American organization, and I haven't pursued them too much, but there are people out there. I would love to, I'd love to progress in my education, do a master's and get into philosophy and apologetics and explore that through the visual. That's a massive part of the Christian circle. But that's for myself personally, I think. Any advice I'd give to somebody who's looking to get into the visual arts, photography, whatever it may be, I think you need to fall in love with the craft and fall in love with God as best as you can. Be honest with yourself. Try not to be a superhero. Just do the best you can at thinking about different ways in order to communicate the various different ideas that you are interested in communicating about God, and about making that personable to those around us, because the onus is on us to communicate why your average unsaved person should be interested in what we're interested in. I mean, if we're creating stuff for a Christian audience, fine. You can create stuff for a Christian audience, but you need to be aware that people do not believe what we believe, nor do they read and understand the things that we take for common knowledge, and that is so second nature to us. I shared my work with somebody, and he said, it's great, but I don't get it. And it was an eye-opener to me, because, again, as I say, the onus is on us to make it, again, very relatable, and to be able to communicate these ideas and to, I don't want to say force people, but to help people, or to show people why they need to be interested in this. That's my advice. I guess that's my advice, what I'd say.